building that into the practicum. Well, our practicum director is our coordinator. He'll take care of that, but I'm going to give him that idea so that we can run with it.
It's nice that you have a team.
We realized how critical that was going to be about 2 months in. I was like, there's no way I can handle. I wouldn't have any time to do anything else, and so them doing that, even while I'm gone, the last couple of days has just been super great. It's really good.
You know, and the irony that I've discovered is that whether you have 3 people that you're doing this program for, or 300, you're going through the same steps and processes. So it's no less work having less people.
Yeah, it's definitely making sure that we have a tight system, and a lot of this started given to us by Northwest. So it's just really adding in the intern portion and then just keeping it. When August comes, I think I'm just more ready to kind of see if we run into some pitfalls where they're going to be within learning for some time. Just avoid this one, avoid that one. So it's been really good. Definitely a good experience to be out here and get all this stuff. So I'm excited that I came out.
Welcome to this breakout. It's about academic coaching. It's everything you ever wanted to know how to guarantee every one of your students get an A, as long as they do A work and spend it on time. And it's formatted correctly and all of those type of things. Well, there's a lot to it. And so Jessica and I are sort of teaming up and talking about this. And here's the Assistant Director to Advising at Northwest University's College of Adult and Professional Studies. How's that? Jessica.
Takes up a lot of room. Okay, so I'm going to go over kind of the process of what academic coaching is, how you and I are going to work together, how we're going to become best friends. It's going to be wonderful. Okay, so what is an academic coach? So essentially this role is you're helping the students through the academic process. Anything from when they start, getting them in, you'll run orientation for them, follow up and monitoring their grades like we talked about in the tool session, which I think all of your faces are familiar, so that's fantastic. Keeping track with what NU is requiring. So you'll learn our terminologies and the difference between adds, drops, all that fun stuff. You'll also help them if they have questions on ordering books, doing their homework, and making sure that they're attending their study hall that you guys will be setting up. Okay. Oh, I thought I changed it. Oh, okay. So student success. These are my 5 pillars of success, and it's kind of hard to read. So I apologize for that. The first pillar here we have advising, which is done on the part of Northwest, but you guys are involved in it. Orientation, your coaching centers or study halls. Monitoring, and then assessment at the end of each session. Okay, so we're going to go over the advising process. So this is what's done in my office. So myself and another one of my staff members will be working on putting together schedules for your students. Right now I'm going through and doing that with all the continuing students right now. So that involves what I call a degree template review. So when your students come in, they get put on a degree template. So it tells me all the classes they need for their degree, if they have transfer credits, all that fun stuff. So I look at that, what your CPP is offering if you're offering live classes, and what we're offering online, and I build schedules for your students that move them forward to their degree completion. Okay, assigning courses. These are the different statuses that I wanted to inform you about. So full-time, 3/4 time, and half-time are the different levels, so how many credits they're enrolled in. So full-time is at 12 credits, or the 4 courses is full-time, and then 9 3/4 and 6 at half-time. Some students are taking 1 course at a time, very few, but if students drop to that level and only have 3 credits, 1 course for the entire semester, they will not be eligible for aid. So all their aid will go away if they had it, or they will not have any at all. So,
not eligible.
yeah, so they're not eligible, so they can't apply for financial aid. Another point I want to mention is a lot of our students are earning credit for their practicum. That credit amount they get, we call them free credits, which means they do not apply to your student's load. So that means if they're taking 3 credits of practicum and 12 credits, that does not equal 15 credits in the semester. We only count the Northwest classes. Okay?
they fail a class, if we go back to that, if they fail a class, let's just say they're taking 6 credits, but then they fail a class, does that make them ineligible for financial aid?
No, it does not. So they won't lose their aid if they fail because it's still on their record as taking the course. They just didn't successfully complete it. What that will do, however, is if it continues to happen, it will eventually impact their aid because they're not moving forward towards their degree. So it won't affect that specific semester, but it could have negative consequence down the road if that pattern is not stopped.
The grade point average is part of that, not just completion of credits, but the grade point average. So like if a person gets C minuses, they're passing the course, that's below a 2.0 though, so they can run into problems with financial aid. So that's why the two magical numbers are 12 full-time and a GPA of 2.0 or higher. Those are the two things that are the constant pressure on students and therefore us to ensure that students are progressing and not jeopardizing their financial aid status.
So Jessica, the 3 credits then for the internship part, the practicum, does that count towards the financial aid? So if they're only taking one other class and then the practicum? So it doesn't?
It does not. What that does, so how I kind of remember it, is those credits coming after the semester's over.
Okay.
So they don't count towards that semester's credits.
Can a student take more than the 4 classes per semester?
We have had that happen on very, very rare occasions, and against my strong suggestion not to. The amount of work put in for each course is very extensive. Because essentially you have to look at it as if they're going to school full-time, that is a full-time job. Okay? So if they're doing the 12 credits to 2 per session simultaneously, that's a full-time job. And then if you think they have an internship on top of that, okay, that could be anywhere from 4 to some of the churches have way above 4 hours for an internship. So it's really not in the best interests of the student to allow them to take more than that. The only times it has really happened is if it's a student that has a really high GPA, like a 3.6 or higher, and they're close to graduating, it's their last semester. They'll take 3 in one session, but again, that has happened maybe a handful of times because I tried very hard to not let that happen through the advising process. So part of our job as an advisor and as you guys is to help students really set their goals and why are they here? Why are they wanting to come? Are they trying to get through as fast as they can? Probably not the best program for them because we want them to succeed because a lot of our students struggled in the past, whether it was in college or high school, and setting them up just to get them through as quickly as possible. They're not going to get the most out of their education, they're not going to get the value out of the classes, and so it's really a case-by-case basis, but I as an advisor strongly discourage it.
So we could just take a look at the student and see if they're a good student. I have students that are used to taking 5 classes at a time. So this breaking up into two sections, students are like, oh, well, I could take 3 at a time and it would be the same load.
Well,
but
something you have to
half the
think
time.
about too is I was a traditional student, so I was taking 6, 7, a crazy amount of classes, working full time. That kind of psycho student, right? So I'm used to taking that many classes at once, but those are in a 16-week period or a really long time. These here are 3 credits, intense 3 credits for 7 weeks. So they have 2 assignments due at the same time or 2 papers due at the same time. So the due dates all line up at the same time. Not to mention our program is really heavy in reading and writing, so that in and of itself can take a lot of time too. So it's just important to really evaluate the courses they're in, the content, the level. And I mean, once they get to senior level courses, I mean, that's very intense work. So evaluating it case by case, I'm definitely not opposed to that, but it's something that the student really needs to seriously consider before moving forward.
It's very difficult to compare other educational experiences to this experience. You have church responsibilities, the internship, and it's just difficult to do any more than if I was a successful student here going to the University of Washington to say, I understand higher ed, I will do just as well over there. I don't know. And that's why having at least one semester to evaluate, and then we almost have to look at the courses because Jessica has designed this to have a sort of lighter load the first semester because there's so many transitions.
It picks up.
It does. It picks up really quick.
You'll get your first year and you'll be like, oh, this is great, they can do it. And then the next semester comes around and you're like, oh. And then
So
it's
that first
January
semester,
and
that
court
first
dates
semester
comes
is
and
like-
you're like, okay.
Definitely.
That's experience.
It's a lot of reading too. It is.
Yeah.
It's kind of deceiving, because I was the same way in college. I took 4 or 5 classes, and so you think, oh, it's only 2 classes, but it's double, it's 14 weeks of reading in 7 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of reading for them, and, that makes me.
So, moving forward, if we addressed your question, okay. The next step is the student is sent an advising email from my office. So it's either coming from me or it is coming from my student support specialist, which is going to start in 2 weeks, so I'm excited. So they'll get an email from me both at their personal and their Northwest email, and you guys will be copied on it. So once I send that, I'm counting on you guys to be my feet on the ground. Say, did you check your email? Did you respond to this? Did you remove your holds from your account? Do you owe money? Any of that kind of stuff. Because those are the steps that will hold up them actually getting registered. So once they get that email, all they have to do is send me a quick reply saying, yes, I want these classes, sign me up, and they're done.
When did they receive that email?
I'm working on continuing students right now. I'm about halfway through our 250 some. So normally this is the time they're going to start receiving it. My goal is to get a little bit earlier every year because I really want to get students going into the summer into their classes. Things just snowballed and my office went crazy, but the goal is to make it a little bit earlier. But this time, May through the week before August, or the week before August starts, is my ideal time to get everybody registered. That gives them time to prep for their first class, buy their books without being rushed, start reading, get their life in order, all that stuff. Then again, and I already covered that part, but they're registered by us, so they don't have to worry about it. A lot of students will ask because they can see in self-service, the portal that they remove their holds in, that they can register themselves. We have taken that part back onto Northwest because of the complexity. We have so many online classes and so many sections of it, and students were winding up in the wrong courses all the time. And unfortunately, we weren't able to catch them until the class was already started, and it just became a huge mess. So this is more convenient for you guys because you're not tracking it down. It's more convenient for the students, and it saves us time on our end. Okay. All right, the advising process, and I kind of went through this a little bit, just kind of our roles, so we're all kind of clear on what part of the game we're playing. NU's role, we create schedules and we register the students. Students' role is to clear all the holds on their account. So all they have to do is register them and then confirm their schedule. And you guys as coordinators and academic coaches is to do the check-in and follow-up and make sure the students are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Okay, this is the infamous question I get every semester. Can all our students be in the same course? The answer is I try best I can to get as many students in the same course as I can. But a lot of the partners have transfer students or students that didn't do well their first semester, or they're taking 6 credits, or they're taking a semester off, or my mom died and I need to drop this course, or something like that. So there's always some sort of reason I can't always put them all together. Transfer credits is the biggest one. We were kind of taken aback at how many transfer students we actually have in our program. The majority of our students are transfer students. So that was newsflash to all of us. We also, it depends on the types of degrees that you guys offer. The more degrees you offer, the more spread out your students are going to be. So the sites that have more live courses or students in the same online classes together have 1 or 2 degrees. Where if you have other sites that offer psychology, business, and all of these ones, their population is spread amongst way more classes. So, then of course if a student withdraws or fails, that's going to set them back from everybody else. So as best I can, so kind of my process when I look at your guys' schedules is I advise the students individually. I go back through everybody, see if I can put some people together, move their schedules around a little bit. So it's a very extensive process. So when you get a schedule and it says these people are in different classes, I assure you I have tried my hardest to get them in. So, but please, if you see questions or you think there's an error, please reach out to me because I am human. It does happen. There's hundreds of students I'm looking at, so please don't feel like you can't say, hey, this might be wrong. Okay? All right.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Can students, can they like request a certain professor? Or
They can. It's kind of hit and miss because our program is majorly taught by adjunct faculty. So, and they go in rotations. So sometimes the professor they ideally want isn't always there. If there is a professor that they really want, they can definitely ask and say, hey, is so-and-so teaching this? I'm definitely not opposed. We can easily switch them to a section if that person is.
Okay.
But it's hit and miss.
The challenge might be, though, that they would be leaving the same section with their other
The rest of the
students in a different section, and so any of the forum, the comments, they would not be talking, it's taken from one group to another.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is, we've all been to college, so we know that there's some profs that we really like. But then if we had that prof all the time, we would maybe expand our repertoire. So usually it doesn't work out. It depends on the size of your group. But these are all considerations that Jessica takes in mind. So any questions like that, a quick response to her or to her advising email would give her plenty of time to look at it, and she can do a lot of stuff behind the scenes, but ultimately, usually we assume that you would want your students in the same discussion groups in the same course, as opposed to spreading them out to different courses.
Student orientation, so this is something that will be coordinator led. You guys will be doing at your sites, which I think, Kim, do you guys do something down there? Yeah. Going over things like their weekly schedule, what the internship program is going to look like. So it's really getting them oriented to their new life. What's school going to look like? How many hours a week? Like here I have coursework expectations, 15 hours plus a week per course. And that's
Per course.
Per course.
They're taking 2 courses.
That's why I was saying it could be a full-time job, being a full-time student. So something to keep in mind, retaining students, it's all about painting a realistic picture for them. What is this really going to mean? Putting your life into this kind of cyclical thing for a couple of years, making sure that they really understand what they're going to do. This is real money, this is real courses, these are real grades, this is a real record that's going to be with me for the rest of my life.
Now, Jessica, we've all taken courses. The first week, we show up, we get a syllabus. We don't have anything to do the first week. I mean, that's the way college is designed, right? Is this program designed the same way?
It is not. That is a great question, Jim.
It's not.
So that first week, you hit the ground running. That first week, you have assignments due. You need to be on top of it. So your first assignment, that week of class, is due on Thursday. So you need to have your books read so you can take that quiz. So you don't have that, if you go to a traditional school, you have that first week, it's syllabus day, everybody's still happy, that kind of stuff. So this really kind of smacks you in the face. So it's an amazing program, amazing teachers, amazing outcomes of courses. Our students really learn a lot, but it's like drinking from a fire hose. So making sure that they know that up front.
So the orientation needs to have that as a very clear message, that students, there is no slack first week or even slack last week. That's something to be very, very cognizant of and to communicate to your students.
And then part of this orientation, ideally would be, before the classes start, to make sure that students have gotten their textbooks, they've checked their online classes, making sure all your students can log in.
Yeah.
We try to not have technical issues, but sometimes it happens. They can't log in, their email doesn't work, my password expired, my classes don't show up. These are all things that we need to know about before the class starts.
How often do passwords time out here?
Every 6 months. So this summer, all your students are going to need to renew their password, most likely. So make sure that that's all up to date when they come back from summer.
And if you don't do it within that 6 months, it's much more of a hassle. They have to contact our IT department to do it, rather than being able to just simply change the password online. Your faculty, your faculty might also get caught in this. In fact, often they are.
Mm-hmm. They are. My husband just had to redo his password and he freaked out because he didn't know what to do. So, and he's been teaching for almost 3 years. So, the last point here, communicate with your professors, establishing a relationship. That is key. One of the obstacles that students face is when they're not doing well, they crawl into a shell and they don't want to come out. Mommy's going to be mad at me, I'm failing my course, I missed an assignment, what am I going to do? I recommend that students up front, when they first get into the class, email the instructor, make an announcement on the board saying, hey, my name's so-and-so, I'm at this church, this is my goal. Just establishing that relationship up front really helps to bring those barriers down if something goes sideways later on. So establishing that kind of communication is really going to help them be successful in the rest of their course. It makes it less intimidating if they need to go to them with a question or a concern or something like that. Okay, let's see. Weekly coaching centers, or study halls as we knew them in high school. This here, the first week is really a kickoff. This is where I want you guys to hype up your students. I want you to, really sell this. We're going to do this together. This is a group thing. We're all in this together. I'm here as a coach. I'm here if you have questions, things like that. So, and then just covering the basics. Have them log into NUOP. Make their planner, schedule their week out, their semester out, however you want to do it. So the weekly coaching center participants. So I have a list of them here. Pretty much anybody and everybody. Academic coach, so you guys are 4 years. The new students. I had an interesting concept in my master's program. We had what were called student mentors. Somebody that was towards the end was helping those up front. Somebody they could go to with questions through the program, if they've interacted with other classes, kind of prepping them for the more difficult classes, things like that. So that might be something you guys want to think about if there's a few students at your site that have a little more experience or expertise or things like that. Your probationary or success strategy students, those that come in or have established a lower GPA, having been here a while, they will strongly benefit from this. And of course, grade check students or anybody that's missing assignments. So those getting a D or lower in a course should be participating in this. These are just some suggestions here. Check-in, making personal contact. So getting them to see your face is really important. We look at you as more of kind of the mama bear, papa bear, kind of getting the fear put into them a little bit if they're not doing well. Giving this as a time, so the students have a guaranteed study time every week they can depend on. So they can do their homework together, if they're taking a class together, they can do reading assignments together. It's just getting that peer accountability in there really helps to keep them moving forward. Going over any subject matter they had problems with. If they have tutoring sessions, discussing that. Anything that they have done that you think will benefit other students, going through tutorial videos that are in your CPP handbook. All the resources are at the very back that are in various subjects. So study skills, time management, some of the ones we went over in smart thinking are great resources. Using smart thinking, set up a group tutoring session, invite a tutor in, things like that. And you can use it as a final project workshop. Okay, monitoring grades. My role in, I'm trying to hurry up here because Jim has some stuff to talk about. NU's role in monitoring grades. I check grades, so I am watching your students. Week 1, 3, and 5 of each course. You guys will receive an email as well as your students if they are not doing well. If they're not getting anything above a D plus, you will get an email from me. You'll get an email saying these students are struggling, these are the courses, you need to touch base with them right away. So the specific time periods I picked, so the end of the week 1, they'll get an email from me on Friday saying, I've noticed you haven't participated in anything. Something was due on Thursday. If you don't participate by Sunday night in one of the following activities, you will be dropped from the course. This is to help benefit the student. If they had no intention of taking the course, it will drop them from the course. It won't appear on their transcript. However, it will impact their financial aid. So something to keep in mind. Anytime after that, if they've had 2 weeks or more of non-participation, Northwest can also remove them from the course. So if they have 2 weeks of no participation, no assignments turned in, no nothing, we will withdraw them as opposed to allowing them to get an F. So any of these emails before we remove the student, you and the student get a warning. If I don't hear from you by this date, this is what's going to happen. So students have a chance to say, hey, no, I'm working with my professor. Hey, I'd actually rather get an F because I don't want to pay for a W. I'd rather take an F and retake the course. So there are different extenuating circumstances, things like that. But they will get an email of a warning. Okay? Okay, your guys' role is to be constantly monitoring.
Trust but verify.
Trust but verify. We ideally want all A students, but reality is that's not going to happen. So getting on top of them as quickly as possible because of the fast track format, it will snowball and get out of control very, very quickly. So catching them early on, which is why I do the 1 week and the 3 week, so they can adapt and change and make things better. So, and of course, reach out to us if you have concerns about students. Don't ever hesitate. Okay, at the end of the 7 weeks, having a student assessment, sit down with them, see how they're doing. Even your good students, give them a pat on the back, celebrate their win. Keep them motivated to go forward because they're doing good, but they also want to know that they're doing good. Okay. But this is also the time to sit down with the students that didn't do so hot and figure out why. Did they not turn in work? Was there something going on in their life personally that was keeping them from moving forward, things like that. So hopefully you know the problem before it happens at this point, but evaluating them each session so you can start the next session fresh.
Really consider this week 7 as a celebration. Find a way to celebrate. They're working so hard for those 7 weeks, but that week break in between the session A and session B, find something to do to celebrate, to let them sort of take a breath, realize, hey, we did do pretty well, or here's some mid-corrections that we need to make, and then jump into the next one.
Okay, and then just to sum up, the partner's role, so you guys keeping track of your students' academic performance and addressing and evaluating any challenges. I mean, I'm here to work with you guys. This is my role, advising, student support, academic success, all that stuff. So if you guys have questions, concerns, your students are struggling and you don't know where to go, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help, and I want to see your students succeed. I really do. When I see students come back and they're like, oh my gosh, I just graduated. We just had a group of CPPs graduate. And it was so exciting to watch. They were so excited. They were emailing me all week, I'm almost done, Jessica. And they were so excited. So I want to see them get to that point. Okay? Students' role, which is the big one. Turning in your homework. I know that sounds daunting to some of them, but just turning it in, getting a 50% is better than getting a 0.
Absolutely.
Then establishing communication and a relationship with your faculty member, with the professors you have, very, very important. And then ask for help. I don't want them to be afraid to ask for help. We have resources here that we talked about earlier. They have you guys, which is why we have you on the ground. You know the students better than us. We rely on you guys to really help facilitate this relationship. Okay? And now it's over to Jim.
This one does not have my slides on it. Do you?
Oh.
Can you get those?
I'm sorry.
How does that make sense? Do you understand your role, students' role, and our role? Okay? Some of you have worked with us for a while. What is some of those strengths of this sort of cooperation, or what is some of the weakness? What are some of the weaknesses of this cooperation?
I would say the response time from Northwest is awesome.
Yeah.
If
Oh,
I have
that's good
a
to hear.
question, or if, a student's in panic mode, the response is not only quick, but we had a challenging situation where one of our students was trying to kind of like catch up after 5 weeks of doing almost nothing, just to keep out of trouble, so to speak. And
To keep out of trouble with you?
with us.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought.
And to just, finish, because he's already kind of skating the line a little bit just with academics. And he was trying to cram everything into like a week. And, so we were trying to unwithdraw from the class, and the team here took time to really evaluate the whole picture and decided this isn't the best interest of the student. And so they work fast, but they also really, really do take the students' well-being overall in mind.
Good, thank you. Each week in this program is like 2.5 weeks in a semester. So missing 1 week is like, okay, you just did nothing for 2.5 weeks in a normal semester course. And not too many places you can pass even after 1 week of that, much less 5 weeks. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about my favorite topic to talk about, because I think the more I talk about it, the less it's going to happen. That hasn't quite happened yet, but that's my goal. Plagiarism. Academic honesty is something we take very seriously, and of course you take very seriously. So it's something that we have some software to help us and some other philosophical statements to help us. Is this the first line? Second slide.
Not working again.
Okay.
It just worked, I promise.
Okay.
Is the second one.
Essentially, it is using another person's ideas or expression in your writing without acknowledging the source. And it sounds, okay, that's pretty easy to do, but however, it's very difficult, especially for students to do, and perhaps especially for students who are challenged in high school, trying to find then a way to be successful in this program, and just in the online format, it's a little different on that. The leading cause of plagiarism is time management, not a desire to cheat. It's time management. I get stuck, it's the end of the week, I didn't really plan my time as I should, and all of a sudden now I'm obligated to turn this in by Sunday at 11:55. Now, plagiarism, though, is much bigger than just what you and I face working with our students. There are presidents and there are leaders of countries who have gotten in trouble and had to resign. Our current Putin, one of our favorite Russian presidents right now, well, the only president, he is constantly being pressured by some plagiarism he did on his doctoral work. The defense minister in Germany a few years ago had to resign because of plagiarism. There are college presidents over the last even couple of years who had to resign from being president because somebody looked and read their dissertation or read their thesis and said, this looks very familiar, very similar to somebody else's work. Rand Paul and John Welch are two people. Rand Paul is still in office, but about every time his election comes up again, all of a sudden plagiarism issues that have some very serious questions. John Walsh, I think he was from Montana, had to stop his presidential interest because of plagiarism. And Ben Carson and John Biden, former Vice President Biden, both have plagiarism issues that have plagued them for years. It is using somebody else's ideas. Well, it's very easy to note whenever you write that it's somebody else's ideas. Faculty are not the plagiarism police, however. Faculty hate to say, student, this sure looks similar to some other work, or I just simply went online to check something, and it seems that what you said is a really high coincidence comparison to somebody else said. The problem is the internet that makes plagiarism so easy also makes identifying plagiarism just as easy. So we use a software, as many other schools do. The software we use is called Turnitin. It has some great advantages because Turnitin has a huge database, and it is constantly scouring the internet and various writings. It's scouring student newspapers from thousands of schools. So it is an ability, it provides us ability to identify. In addition, CPP students can submit a paper that is a Turnitin paper up to 3 times before the due date. And the report that they get is the very same report that the faculty get. So if it says there's a 20% similarity, students can go in and see, okay, this is a quote from the Bible. Okay, there's not a lot of variety there, or this is a footnote that somebody else has used. So you can very quickly go through and say, no problem, no, oops, this may be a problem. it also, I've got to tell you, if somebody copies from an internet source, pastes it into the paper, and says, I'm going to use the synonym feature in Word to say, okay, instead of this word, I'm going to replace this word. Instead of this word, I'm going to replace it with this word. Turning in is pretty cool because it'll show a highlight and yet, okay, this is a white area to where this word has been replaced. You can so easily see what the student has done. I always say, never copy and paste unless you're going to put quotation marks around it and give proper citation. When you copy and paste, that turns into plagiarism unless you're noting where it came from. So, there's a couple of videos that I'd like to look at. This first video is something that I highly recommend you have in your orientation. You have somewhere to explain what plagiarism is. And no pressure. Yeah, we have a little pressure.
It wouldn't open.
So you have to write a paper, and your instructor has lectured you about not plagiarizing. Do you know how to do it? Welcome to plagiarism. How not to do it. Plagiarism is simply using other people's writing or ideas without giving them credit for it. It is taking the credit yourself. If you copy the entire text from someone else, say from a website or a book, and put it in your paper as your own writing, that clearly...
Okay. I apologize. Not sure what's going on. Partly Panopto also.
And partly it's me.
Okay. We will send these two out. Number one, the plagiarism video is about 2.5 minutes, 2 hours, 50 seconds, 2 minutes, 50 seconds. It is the most succinct example to students on what to do and what not to do. The second thing we get into is self-plagiarism. What? If you pull a paper for something for a course that you've written a paper you've written for another course, you cannot just take that and say, I'm submitting this, or submitting big chunks of it. You can actually self-plagiarize. The example in this video, that is really cool video that you're not seeing. The example is that if you wrote a book and then you wrote another book and say, I'm just going to take a big chunk of this book and put into this new book. Well, no, you need to reference this other book. Well, in that setting, it sort of makes sense that you are not copying thoughts, you're copying work. Yeah, you produced it, but you're taking work and putting it in and saying, this work I'm applying to this. Just like an author, if he or she wrote a previous book, the author has to reference that previous book. Self-plagiarism, as explained by this video that you're not seeing, but you will see, will help explain that aspect to not only you, I sort of had to get it through my head, but also to your students. Here at Northwest, we have what we call 3 strikes. First offense is a person is proven to have plagiarized. The professor works with the student in whatever appropriate action is, and then the professor notifies the provost's office. Provost has like a database because we don't want this to happen again. There's no, the provost doesn't do anything at this point. It's just saying the professor says this person has plagiarized. Secondly, the second offense. The instructor takes the appropriate action, and then the student has to meet, because CPP, on the phone. The provost will set up a phone call with your student saying, this is inappropriate action. Do you have any questions about it? Do you know what you did wrong? And there's discussion back and forth, but it's pretty much the provost saying, we consider this pretty serious. The third one is, if the student still doesn't get it, then the student has, if there is a possibility the student is removed from classes here. We take it as very serious. It's not just because we want students to make good grades, and how they do it is very important. It's because plagiarism worldwide is a big issue. And you would not want to be President of the United States and all of a sudden, the day after election, somebody comes up and says, hey, you know, your dissertation wasn't yours, was it? So that's why we take plagiarism so seriously. What can the professor do? Professor could reduce the grade on a paper, could fail the paper, could fail the course, could fail college if it's the third strike. It's something we take seriously. Any questions on plagiarism itself? Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that the provost office keeps track of their, so it might be the first offense that you know about, but it could be their third offense?
And that's why the provost is notified at the first offense, because the provost may say, okay, professor, this is the first offense for you. It's really the second offense.
Right.
So you assign and you do whatever you need to on that paper. The provost then says, I have an additional responsibility here.
Yeah.
We don't want this to happen again. Obviously, whatever the instructions and directions were given the first time did not, the student did it again.
Okay. So
Okay.
the provost takes care of the second part of it?
Absolutely, absolutely. But I put this on here, if the student's name is submitted to the provost, they shouldn't freak out. They made a mistake. We assume they didn't do it on purpose just to cheat. They made a mistake. They did not follow the rules like they should. But we want to be sure it doesn't happen again. So that's why the professor then will notify the provost's office. Okay? Yes?
Is the coordinator notified when the student is notified, or is only the student notified?
Usually it's just the student. Now, it's something that, at this point, it's just the student. It's between the student and the instructor. Usually, though, you find out, or the student tells another student, and then you sort of hear something's going on. Or a student says, yeah, I did the same thing, and I am so scared to do it again that I take longer on my papers, or whatever. I've learned how to hit the quotation mark, something like that.
I've been notified by Northwest about it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes you guys do tell us.
Okay, if so, I think it's a good idea. I didn't want to speak so, but, well, good. I mean, bad, but good.
It doesn't automatically happen every time, but I have, as a professor, asked that the coordinator get involved just because I wasn't getting through to the student. So I needed somebody on site that can sit them down and say, hey, you know.
And we
this is
will often
important.
do that. If
Yeah.
the student is responding, they're embarrassed, they're scared, whatever it might be, then we say, coordinator, we're trying to get a hold of the student. It's a
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. Okay? So, Jessica and I have talked about academic coaching. I got to talk about plagiarism. What other questions might you have? I know it's lunchtime in a couple of minutes, so this is the tough thing to ask. Any questions? Yes?
I just want to say, I think it's important to show the students the self-plagiarism video. So I know personally myself as a student, I had the same thing happen where I had a topic for one class where I had to write a paper, and I took another class another time with the same topic. So I just submitted the same paper, changed a little bit, and I got a response back from my professor saying, this is plagiarized. I'm like, but it's my own paper. And so I was never taught about self-plagiarism. So I think students across the board don't even know that exists. So I think it's important to share that with them.
So
Very good point.
these links will be put in with the other resources at the back of your handbook. And these are a great thing to start your kickoff with. Like, these are some of the basic things you guys need to know going into classes. There is such a thing as plagiarizing yourself. I mean, I didn't know that until I was in school.
Well, and this second video on self-plagiarism are two students talking. So it's not like a professor saying, if you do this, I'm gonna,
No, it's
bleed all over your paper. It's two students saying, okay, I don't understand this. What is self-plagiarism? So it's a very logical and very, very well, students all understand what's going on. They may not agree with it, but students will understand what's going on.
I can't remember if it was a glitch or not, but I remember one of our students, they had, for one of the classes, it was literally the exact same assignment that was due, that it was one of the first times they had done, and I can't remember what the deal was, or whatever, but they they figured it out, so I don't know what it is, but is that would be pretty rare to happen in two separate, totally different courses, correct? Because I mean, at that point, it doesn't matter how you slice the cake, you know, if you're asked to answer this question, if this many words, chances are you're gonna...
We try to really watch that, and if for some reason it did happen, we should have changed it.
Okay.
But in that
I can't remember what
case,
the deal was.
yeah, in that case, a lot of time plagiarism is an error on the student, sometimes an error on us, okay? But that's what the Turnitin report will say, this is exact. Most of the time, oftentimes, it's a student who mistakenly submitted the wrong paper. And hold it, this is a paper over here. And the student says, oh, I can't believe I did that. I submitted the wrong paper. On my computer, I clicked this instead of clicking that. And we say, oh, okay, submit the right paper. So that's why the instructor often tries to filter through all of this before it's actually submitted to the provost. Okay, good point. All right, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. Do you know where the next step is? Lunch down at our cafeteria. So you will be back up here afterwards, but these offices or these rooms are not locked. So just to let you know. And